loud so I can share it with you. Great. Okay, well, welcome everyone to Wanderlist 201. I am Laura Fixsen on staff with Virtuoso. I'm the Wanderlist specialist. Some of you maybe were on the call that we did back in October. We actually did a couple of calls, I believe, on the virtual travel event that was also happening. And so potentially you joined in for the 101 basics training that was in the fall, which is wonderful. I will in this training touch on a couple of key items that I shared in that training just to make sure. I never want to assume that everyone was in that training. So I'm just going to hit on a couple of key things briefly. Might be a reminder for some of you, but hang in there with me because the meat of the session is we're going to take a deeper dive into some of the things we briefly talked about in 101, like how to create that intrigue list, the best practices for that, etc. So hang in there with me. I'm actually going to turn off my video at this point because my Wi-Fi with storms rolling through has been a little spotty. I want to make sure you're seeing my screens. So, all right. Let's see if I can get my PowerPoint to cooperate. There we go. And I want to see that I'm going to open up my chat. That is something I should probably do because you can feel free to chat something if you feel like it's not an urgent, need immediate response. Go ahead and chat me up in the chat and we'll cover that at the end. All right. So again, I don't want to assume that you were in that first session. Everyone at this point, if you're going to be utilizing the things that we talked about today, you're going to need a Wanderlist account yourself as an advisor. So if you haven't created that account yet, that is the first step for you. And feel free to do that right now because you might want to walk along with the next step I'm going to talk about. But you would do that by going to www.virtuoso.com/Wanderlist and then just click that big Start Dreaming Now. You can do it from your phone. It takes 60 seconds to create an account, super easy. The one thing I will tell you and recommend is that you use your email to set up an account, the same email you used when you log into virtuoso.com. The reason for that is Virtuoso is moving to a one sign-in technology, which is going to make your life so much simpler. When that happens, which should be right before VTW, so I'm thinking early August, you go to virtuoso.com, you log in one time and you have access, just like you've always had access to like the Travel Academy. You won't have to log in again when you go into the Travel Academy. You wouldn't have to log in again if you go to My Marketing and Wanderlist. Now you'll have access to just with a click of the button right on virtuoso.com. So it's really going to make your life easy. Love it. Can't wait until we move to that, which is coming soon. If you created a Wanderlist account, say back in the fall, and you used a different email than what you used to sign into virtuoso.com, don't worry. We will have steps for you to be able to change that email so they match. Don't worry about it now because we don't have steps yet. We will when the time comes. So just keep that in mind. Okay, moving right along. Want to talk about some best practices. In the last 101 session, we talked about, different ways to get Wanderlist out in front of your clients so that you could reconnect. During the height of COVID, we really needed a way to communicate and re-engage and get them to continue to dream. Well, as we talked about, if you were in the beginning, before we started this session, things are a little different now. The phones are ringing off the hook for a lot of you, and it's a crazy busy time for you, and you're really trying to figure out, how do I communicate to my clients? I've got so many requests coming at me. I'm having a hard time managing my workflow right now. And so interestingly enough, advisors who've been using Wanderlist with clients to re-engage have started to transition a process for themselves that's helping them with this new era in our landscape. And so let's just chat briefly about that best practice they're discovering. And it is, as you're getting these requests and a destination's been identified, so you have a client or a prospect that's reached out to you. The step one, right, is they have a destination. They want to go to Italy, for instance. Great. Now, for some of you, maybe your process is that you collect a planning fee, and you might want to do that first before you take it any further. A lot of the advisors I've been talking to, that's what they're doing. The destination's identified, they collect their planning fee, and then they're going to invite their client to create a wander list for that destination. for France or Italy or whatever they have identified. And you're going to encourage them to invite those family members or friends that are going to be on that trip to participate. Invite them to that list so that they can take the time and start dreaming together, throw every idea imaginable out on the list. Normally, anecdotally, what I'm hearing is that takes a couple of weeks to a month for the friends and the family to all get their ideas loaded and juices flowing and really feel like they have a full list. So what that's doing for the advisor is buying them time. It's buying you time to take care of the things that are right in front of you, the more urgent things. Maybe you've got clients that are further along in the process that you just need to tie up some details. So it's buying you that time. But the wonderful thing about it is for that client, for that traveler, they're feeling like the process has already started. The travel process, planning process has started. So they're feeling engaged in a dynamic way. So it's a win-win. They feel like they're already in the process and you've been able to take a breather and then reconnect with them when you have a moment, in a couple weeks from now or 3 weeks from now to do the detailed planning meeting with them. Now, that's always assuming that they're not talking about planning a trip that they want to take in the next couple months, of course, right? We're talking if you've got 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. This is a great workflow strategy. The one thing I point out, though, is I'm hearing this over and over that collecting that planning fee before Wanderlist seems to be what a lot of the advisors are doing. I will tell you, there is an exception to this, and it'll totally be up to you because Roseanne, who I chatted with about a month ago now, was discovering this, she actually uses Wanderlist as a way to differentiate herself. So she does it before the planning fee. So she has prospects or clients contact her. Now she's in the romance niche. So she does distance weddings and honeymoons. So she was sharing that she had 3 clients. She was testing Wanderlist out. And one in particular already had found her on a website, was a prospect, had her honeymoon already kind of planned in her mind, right? She was one of those brides. And was kind of giving Roseanne a tough time saying, I don't really understand why I would pay a planning fee when American Express can give me all the benefits you just said you can give me. And so at that point, Roseanne, the light bulb went on and she was like, listen, I'm going to have you create a mood board for the destination you have in mind. And we're going to do a lookbook together. So she really started using terminology for the bride that made sense to the bride. She started a Wanderlist for that destination with some of the ideas the brides had talked about, and then sent that over to her. And by that afternoon, the bride had signed the contract and wrote a check. So it was a great way for Roseanne to differentiate herself. So she flip-flopped the steps of the strategy a little bit, and I like that idea. I think that could work for a lot of advisors. So it's up to you how you do these steps. But I do love that they're utilizing this in a way to help them manage their workflow right now. All right, so in the 101, we did talk about some of the top tips from advisors. How do you share your advisor invite link to get clients to utilize Wanderlist and start building lists, and for you to then be able to lock in all that future business. So they might discover you through your website, your newsletters. We talked about creating a list for a client, sharing it on social media, and then those virtual events. Well, let's say a prospect or client clicks on your link through any of these channels. I hear a lot from advisors, then what? Like, I really don't know what to do. I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed. So let's talk about best practices for that. Once a traveler clicks on your link, they create a Wanderlist account and potentially have created a few lists. Remember, you get a notification from the Wanderlist system that lets you know. It's 1 email a day. It's a comprehensive email that you get at 1 p.m. Central Time that gives you a high-level overview of everything that's happened to all the people you're connected to. So you get a notification that says in the email, Jane Smith created an account. And then maybe it says, John Smith created this trip, added this person, etc. So it keeps you abreast of what's going on with all of the accounts that you're connected to. So if you're seeing activity, somebody created a new account and they've created a couple lists, what do you do? The first step is to send them a welcome to Wanderlist email, just, highlighting, hey, excited to see you've been in Wanderlist. You added some cool ideas. Wanted to let you know I'm going to add some ideas to this too, and then follow up with you in a couple weeks to see how helpful Wanderlist has been for you. Now, the follow-up is really super key because the intent of the follow-up is to start transitioning them from thinking of a list and transitioning that into booking a trip. So follow-up, it would be a phone call or an email, and you start asking those questions that are going to kick that can down the road. So it might be questions like, oh, I saw you created a list for Italy and France and one for Australia. Any idea on timing for those right now? Do you have a time in mind? So just starting to ask questions to keep it moving along so that you can convert that list to an actual booking, which would be the third step. And then lastly, I think the most important one that gets overlooked sometimes is the whole idea and intent of Wanderlist is, yes, for your travelers to create a list of that trip that's top of mind right now, right? They're calling you about Italy, but it's to get them to not just create lists for that one-time trip. You really want to encourage them to create lists for the next 3 to 5 trips that they're dreaming about. Because what that's going to do for you is lock in that future business, right? Start building that pipeline. And what it does for the traveler is they're creating a travel portfolio, right? They're creating, here are my long-term goals. Here's all the trips I want to take. And it's going to help them to organize and manage that and not miss anything in their life, right? So as stages of life are going. So it's really going to give you that crystal ball to see all of the places that they want to travel. All right, so this next part, oops, wrong way, is the fun part. So I'm going to now dive in. I'm going to do a live demo, and I'm going to show you how do you create a list for a client. We talked a lot about that in 101 and how popular that was for advisors and how effective creating a list for a client and inviting them to a list, how effective that's been. So I really wanted to dive into best practices. How do you do that? Things to be aware of. So let's just open up my browser, share that with you. So you should now be seeing I'm in my Wanderlist. So you should see my name on the left, Laura Fixsen. So I'm in my advisor Wanderlist. I'm not an advisor, but I'm set up for demo purposes. This is where I want to talk about some things we talked about in the 101 session that are super key. So if you already know this, bear with me. But for those of you who have just created an account, or maybe you didn't take it any further, the second step after you create an account is to make sure you unlock your personalized advisor invite link. And I want to take 60 seconds to walk you through how you do that, because it's so important, because that's what's going to tie your clients to you and you to your client. And that's how you're going to get added to every list that your clients make. So when you're in your Wanderlist, I'm going to go back to the main thing here. In the top right-hand corner, if you're on the computer, it's a circle with a silhouette of a person. If you're on your phone, it's 3 dash lines. You're going to click that, and you're going to click Manage Your Profile. So that's going to take you in to see your account profile. So this is my account profile. This is all my travel interests. But the key is to where it says, I am a traveler, is to click this little pencil. That's the edit button. And you're going to change I'm a traveler to I'm a travel professional. So click that. And then in the drop-down menu, hit the little arrow. And I need to select that I'm a Virtuoso travel advisor. That's going to unlock your personal advisor link for you. This is in red. You can see mine in red at the bottom. Highlight. I'm going to copy that. And that's what I'm going to paste in social media. That's what I'm going to paste when I create an email to invite my client to create a Wanderlist link, or sorry, a Wanderlist account. I want them to click on my link to go get registered and create that account. Because when they use my link, it ties me to them. It'll list me in their profile right here. They'll see me listed as their travel professional. And then every list that they make going forward will automatically add me to it. So I know we covered this in the 101, but I just wanted to make sure everyone was super clear about that and where you find it. And again, this is specific to you, the individual advisor, not meant to be shared as with your peers or as an agency. Individual advisor, and you always come in to your account profile with at the top here, manage your profile, and can find this here. It doesn't change. It never goes away. It's always here for you to use whenever you're ready. Okay, with that, if there's questions, feel free to throw them in the chat and we can talk about it later, but I really want to dive into why we're on this call, which is the advanced methods. So let's talk about creating a list for a client. So we're in my Wanderlist account, right? I'm the advisor. This is my Wanderlist. Again, I've got some personalized lists of trips I want to take, right? You can see that here. Then you can see I've created some lists for, oops, didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I'm a little click happy. You can see I've created some lists for different clients as well. That's what we're going to be talking about. And then below again, remember, is the shared with me section. This is the area when a client that's attached to me, because they used my link, when they create a list, I'll get a notification via email, and then I can find their lists are located in the share with me section. So I could hop in to any of these lists and start adding my ideas to my clients list. But today we're talking about how do I create a list for one of my clients? Maybe it's a prospect, maybe it's a client, maybe they have a Wanderlist account already, or maybe they don't. There's a lot of different reasons of why you might want to create a list for a client and then share that list with them. So today we're going to talk about Bob and Jane Adventurer. They have an anniversary coming up in 3 years. It's a big one. It's a 40th anniversary. We've chatted about it briefly in passing a while ago. And I know they had been kicking around. Maybe their dream would be to go to Australia. And potentially, maybe I haven't done much with Jane and Bob in a couple of years. So there's been a bit of a lag in our relationship, and I want to re-engage them. So I'm going to start a list for them by clicking Start a New Wanderlist. I've already got one preset to save time, so let's just click on here. So I've already named the list, the Adventurers 40th anniversary and the destination. So a couple of things to consider when you are creating a list for a client. When you're naming that list, I would definitely recommend as a best practice to always have the client's name in the title somewhere so that you can differentiate easily a client's list from your own personal list, so you can find their list quickly, because you might have, 5 Australia lists in your Wanderlist, and I want to be able to differentiate whose list is who. So I'm always going to put their name somewhere in the title. So I've titled it Adventurers 40th Anniversary. Okay, now the next thing I want to do when I'm creating a list for a client is I want to add some helpful things in here, and I want to also add some exciting, cool ideas that's going to be the hook to get them engaged and wanting them to utilize and add to this list and move this along down the path towards an actual booking. So the first thing we want to talk about when you're building a list is, how does Wanderlist work when it comes to adding ideas? And the first thing you need to consider is when you're building a list, whatever you put in a list, whatever I add first is going to drop to the bottom of the list as I continue to add things in. So with that, I want to make sure whatever I add to the list first is more of the helpful information. Okay, let's be honest, the helpful information is probably a little drier. It's not the exciting stuff. I'm going to add that in first. And then the exciting, shiny objects, I'm going to add in last. So it's the first thing the client sees. It'll make more sense as I'm building this. So let's just go ahead and do that. So in the last class, we talked about this add your own button. You see it on the right-hand side, kind of middle bottom, big red button. If I click that, Wanderlist is asking me to go ahead and paste in a website or a URL, remember? So I have some already preset. And I'm going to start at the top here. I've got the US Embassy site specific to Australia, travel to Australia, specific to COVID, up-to-date COVID information. So I'm going to highlight and copy that web address, paste it in here where it asked me to paste it, and then I'm going to hit save. Wanderlist, remember, is creating that link now to the US Embassy site. And the US Embassy site is actually providing the title, the description, and the photo for our tile that we're seeing, the experience tile that we're seeing. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, probably 60% of the time, what gets pulled over from another website isn't always what I would say best practice as far as how they title things or how they're describing things. So you have the ability to go in here and edit these tiles, how the client is seeing them, and so that it makes sense to the client or the traveler. So how you do that is you click on the tile itself that you just created. In the top right in the tile, you're going to see 3 red buttons. That's our hamburger menu. We're going to click on that and click Edit Item. Now I can go ahead and change this title to something that makes a little more sense. So I might say COVID info for Australia. And then this site didn't give me any description, which is fine. So I'm going to type in a description of what this link is all about. And I have some pre-typed ones to save time. You don't have to watch me slowly agonizingly type things in. So you might type in a description that says something like, this is a link to the US Embassy site, which provides up-to-date information regarding COVID-19 and traveling to Australia. You may choose to utilize this site to keep abreast of all travel news that may impact you. I will be monitoring this site closely as well, or whatever it is you want the description to say. Now the photo, at this point, I can't change it yet. That will be in a future release where we'll be able to upload any photo we want. But for now, we'll leave what they have and we're going to click Save Edits. So we can see now the titles changed, the descriptions changed, so now they would know why they would want to go view that website. Let's go back. And again, now the title, you can see that the title makes a whole lot more sense for that client. So let's do this again. So you're going to get the idea. I see a lot of our advisors using the Add Your Own button, which I'm going to click. And they sometimes have a private branded travel insurance link that they send out to their clients for travel insurance. Now, some advisors say I would never let my clients book their own travel insurance. I don't trust them, but a lot of advisors do. So if you're one of those, you could go to your private branded travel insurance site, go ahead and copy and highlight and copy that link to your site, paste it in where Wanderlist is asking for that URL and click Save. And again, now Wanderlist is creating that link to your private branded travel insurance site. Again, this is not going to make any sense to anyone that we eventually invite to this list. So I'm going to click this tile we just created. Again, those 3 red buttons, hit Edit Item, and I'm going to change the title to Travel Insurance Information. And, I think it's really important for you to market however you normally market. So I'm not going to type a lot. Sorry, I'm just trying to copy and paste what I've pre-typed. All right, so in the description, you might type something like, use this link to purchase travel insurance. Travel insurance is highly recommended because, and then you put your 3 sales bullets that you always say. What are the 3 things that you recommend travel insurance? What's the reason why your client should? Some advisors are actually recommending, hey, I also recommend, gold level or whatever level it is for the insurance that you recommend. So totally up to you if you want to describe it for your clients. So I'm going to save those edits. Let's do one more, just so you get the feel, because I'm seeing a lot of advisors adding also their private branded virtuoso.com website in here. So I'm going to click the Add Your Own button, go to my website. Now I don't have a private branded website because I'm not an advisor, so I just stole Susie Chow's. Thanks, Susie. So I'm going to highlight that, the list, paste it in here, and hit Save. And again, Wanderlist is creating that link now with that website. So it's communicating with it, grabbing over the information. Great. Again, this is Virtuoso's giving me. I'm going to edit this because I don't think it makes sense to the client. So I'm going to click the tile, click Edit, hit Edit Item. And I'm going to change the title to, say, maybe Laura Fixsen's website. Going to change the description. The description the Virtuoso provides is fine, but I want to personalize it a little bit. So I'm going to delete this and retype it and say something like, I can't wait to help you plan your luxury trip to Australia, drawing upon my firsthand experience to craft the perfect vacation filled with unforgettable memories for your family. Again, whatever you want it to say, hit Save Edits. And there we go. Now this tile is going to make a lot more sense to why it's in here and why they would want to potentially go to that particular website. Okay, so now I want to take a pause and talk about a couple of things that's important to consider when you're creating a list for a client. When you're creating a list for a client, you're going to use this invite button to invite them to your list. So they're going to come through Wanderlist through a list invitation. Now, if your client already used your personalized advisor link to create their account and they're already attached to you, don't even need to worry about inviting them to a list. It's just business as usual. If, however, you're trying to re-engage with the client, or maybe this is a prospect and they don't have a Wanderlist account yet, and you're just using this, I'm going to build a list, send it to them to get them intrigued and get them engaged, you're inviting them through a list. So you're not inviting them with your personalized advisor link. Because of that, they're not automatically attached to you. And that means every list that they create going forward, you're not going to be added to. Well, as an advisor, I want to make sure that I'm attached to them, and I want to make sure I'm on every list that they create going forward, because that's future business for me. So there's a couple of ways to remedy this when you're inviting a client to a list and they don't have a Wanderlist account yet. You could do the traditional method of sending them an email, letting them know, hey, would love to, collaborate with you on all your future trips and add cool ideas and bring my expertise to the table. In order to do that, please click my link to log in one time, and that will attach me, that will add me as your travel advisor to Wanderlist. So you could do it that way, and they literally just have to click the link one time and bam, you're connected. And every list they create, you'll be added to. Now, a best practice that is bubbled to the top is I could also just go ahead and add my link right here on the list. So let's do that. I'm going to go back to my profile, top right corner again. Remember, as how I get to my account profile. I'm going to hit manage your profile. I'm going to highlight and copy my link. Go back to my list. Go down here. Let's go back into the adventurers list that I was building. Click the add your own button. Paste in my, click the add your own button, paste my link and hit save. And now Wanderlist is creating that link. Now, this means nothing to anyone that's on this list. They have no idea what this means. So I definitely want to edit this tile. So I'm going to click on it. Click those three red buttons, the hamburger menu, hit edit. Now with this one, I want to be super transparent and authentic about what happened. So I'm going to say maybe link Laura to your account as the description, and transparent about what will happen when they click view my website. So I might say something like, use this link to add Laura Fixsen as your Virtuoso travel advisor in Wanderlist. Wanderlist will automatically add her to each list you create in the future so she can add her travel expertise to your ideas library, or whatever you want to do. But I would definitely recommend transparency here, because you don't want a traveler or a new prospect to feel like you just bamboozled them or you are stalking them without their permission type things. I'm going to hit save edit. So here's what happens for a client. When a client is in this list or a prospect and they click link Laura to your account and they read this and they go, oh yeah, for sure. I definitely want Laura to be part of this. And they click view website. As soon as they click view website, bam, they're connected to you. So what they see is they click view website and boom, it pushes them immediately into their profile where they will now see you listed. It would say my travel specialist, and then it would have your name. So they would see you now listed in your profile. So they understand what just happened, that you've been added to their account as their Wanderlist travel professional. All right, let me go back into that list again. So that's an easy way to allow everyone that's going to be on this list that you're inviting to be connected with you if they didn't use your advisor link to create that account to begin with. I'll tell you a best practice. I talk to advisors, and when I tell them about this, they decide that, you know what, I'm going to do that on every list, not just lists that I'm creating and inviting to clients, but lists that my clients create and I'm going into their list and I'm adding this link, because I know that oftentimes they're inviting people to their lists that are new to me. These are warm referrals. So, maybe it's a friend that I've never done business with. I want to make sure I get connected with them, right? I want to capture their future business too. So they're adding this personalized advisor link to every single list. And it's a really good idea. All right, back to, we're building a list for a client. We've given them some helpful information, which is great. Now it's time to get some fun, exciting, sexy ideas in here, right? That really captures them, that really hooks them in and makes them want to engage with this list. So for this particular client, I know Bob, the husband, he's an interesting guy. He likes kind of wild and crazy things. So I happen to know of this video that I think he'd like. So I'm going to click the add your own button. And up at the top, I've got Australia's top 3 desert monsters. It's a National Geographic wild video, but it's out on YouTube. And he's going to dig it. I know he is. So I'm going to highlight and copy this web address, go back to my list, paste it where it asks me to, and hit save. Now, I'll tell you with YouTube, I rarely have to change their descriptions and photos, their descriptions and titles. They do a pretty good job. So I like how this has come across. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it as is. But now for Jane, I want to put something in here for Jane that's going to capture her. And so I know when I went through the Wanderlist collection below, remember below our experiences, best of the best hotels and cruise lines. Now the best of the best experiences have all been submitted from Virtuoso partners. And I know when I went through this in the past that I saw something. Now, Jane has shared with me in the past that her goal is she wants to swim with sharks all around the world, different types of sharks, specific to different areas, really unique things. So I had seen in the Australia list, the swim with whale sharks. If I click on that tile, I get that high level overview. It tells me a little bit about it. And I can learn that this is unique. There's not many places in the world. Australia is one of the few where you can actually swim with whale sharks. So I'm going to click the heart and add this to the list because I know that this is going to be something that catches Jane's eye and get her excited and interested and potentially start dreaming about that Australia trip now. So I'm going to stop here because I feel like this is enough information to wet the whistle. I don't want to overload a list so that a client doesn't feel like there's no room or space for them to dream. I just want to, again, remember, pique their interest, get them hooked so that they start adding their ideas. Because the key is I want to understand what's interesting to them. I want to learn more about each of them. So I want to learn more about Jane and Bob and what their dream trip to Australia might look like. So this is where I'm going to stop. And I'm going to go to the friends list and I would click the invite button and I would type in Jane's email address and send her an invitation. I'd click invite, I'd type in Bob's email and send him an invitation. And they would both receive in their email box an invitation to this list. And what that looks like is they'll receive from Virtuoso Wanderlist, it'll say Laura Fixsen's been working on Adventurous 40th anniversary trip. Would love for you to add your ideas. And if they hit the accept button, if they already have an account, it's going to put them right into this list. Again, if they don't have a Wanderlist account, it will take them to a registration page to create an account, and then they'd have access to this list. So the best practice is really to give them a heads up what you're doing, right? Is email or phone call. Got this cool new innovative tool. It's complimentary. You're going to love it. You guys can interact with one another, add your ideas. I started a list for you to get you started, so be looking for that email. So I have a lot of advisors that are using this, create a list and invite a client and having huge success with either reconnecting with a client that maybe it's been a while since they've had a conversation, or actually getting bookings from a client of trips that they knew the client had been interested in the past. So I'm going to pause there, and before I jump into the next technique or a feature on Wanderlist that we're going to dive deeper, I want to see, are there any questions right now? Because this is a lot to absorb, and I want to make sure that everybody understands how you build a list and all the considerations that go into building a list. And you can take yourself off of, put yourself off of mute if you have a question. If not, I'm going to dive into the next thing. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my list. I also have gotten asked a lot from advisors that, hey, I have a lot of trips that I like to have sample itineraries that I send out. It's kind of a way for me to market these trips to clients, or I even have on my website the top 10 trips I think you should do in a lifetime. I would love to be able to build a list in Wanderlist and duplicate it for a client. So I don't want to have to build those links every single time, every time I want to share a list with a client. And so, yes, there is a way to do that. So to create a master list and then duplicate that list for a client and save you some time. So that's what I'm going to show you how we do that next. So the first thing you would do again is create a master list for a client. So let's go ahead, or I'm sorry, for that type of trip. So let's go ahead and do that. I've got one already started. So you would hit start a new list, but to save time, let's just click one that I already named. Oops, sorry. I didn't mean to, oh yes, okay. So to save time, since I already showed you how to add your own ideas to a list, I've preset this one up. So I did the same thing. I just used add your own button. I've added in the COVID info, the travel insurance, my personal website, and then my link. And then I added a video that I found out that I thought, for a France foodie trip, I always share this video. I email this to my clients every time when they're considering it. They love it. There's a private cooking class. I use the add your own button. I don't have a URL to build this one because it's a cooking class that I always recommend to clients, but the supplier I use doesn't have a link. So I just titled it and added a description and saved it, and it added it as an idea tile. So I've got that in here. And then from the Wanderlist collection, I added the truffle hunting in Provence because that's something it's fabulous. I always recommend it to my clients. So this is my basis of a France foodie master trip list. When I have clients that I think are a good fit for this, I'm going to create this list and share it with them. So I want to be able to duplicate this without spending the minutes it takes to open up, to open every single website, click the add your own button, copy paste that, go in and edit the description and title every time. That does take some time. It probably takes me 15 minutes to set this up. So now that I have a master list, I'm never going to use this invite button to invite a client. Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my list. I'm going to start a list for a client by clicking start a new Wanderlist. And again, to save time, I've got an empty one here. France, Smith family, France 2022. So we're going to go in there and you can see it's blank. So all I did was I started a new list, I named it, and I selected a destination. So now we've got a blank one. Now I want to take that master list and add all the ideas in here. So here's how we do it. Go back. Once you have your list started for your client, go into that master list and start with the bottom one, hit the heart, and where it says add to, I'm going to click the down arrow, and I'm going to add this to the Smith family list. Click add. Just going to do that for every tile. Click the heart, add it to Smith family France trip, add. Click the heart, add it to Smith family France trip, add. So I will do that for every tile. You can see it's taking me seconds instead of I have to find that website, I have to copy it, I have to hit the add your own button, I have to switch the title. So it's saving me a ton of time. So again, I'm just going to do it for every single tile in the order. Hit the heart, add it to, drop down menu, Smith family France, click add. And the last one, which is from the collection, click Smith family France and add. Okay, so let's go back to the Smith family France list that we created. And all those things should be populated in there now. Boom, there you go. So instead of it taking 15, 20 minutes for every client that I want to send a sample of a France list, it literally, if I wouldn't have been talking, it would have taken me probably 20, 30 seconds to do that. So it's a real time saver. I will tell you, the idea of having a list, we call them public lists, that you can use for marketing is coming. It won't be in the next release, but it definitely is a priority. And what that's going to mean for you is the ability to go up at the top here after I create a list and populate it and copy that link and then share that link out on social media, wherever, and anyone can click on it, whether they have an account, Wanderlist account or not, and view my list. So it will be a great marketing tool. What I want to point out, because people get confused, is right now you cannot copy this link and go paste it as a way to share that list with anyone. They won't be able to get in. Right now, you have to invite someone to a list with the invite button. And that's why the master list and duplication of lists is the way to use it as a marketing tool right now. But just know, those public lists are a top priority and they will be coming. And that is really going to open up the ability to market in amazing ways for you. So I'm going to pause on that note and go back to my PowerPoint. Anyone have any questions at this point? I don't know where my PowerPoint went. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, because I want to cover a couple other things for you. Since this is an advanced class, I also get asked a lot, hey, my client loves Wanderlist, but I get calls from them that say they don't know how to go back in. Like, I've invited them to a list, they interacted with the list, and then, you know, a few days later, they want to go back in and they don't know how do I do it, because Wanderlist is a web-based app. Remember, it's not a native app. It's not something you download in an app store. You have to go to virtuoso.com for, you know, Wanderlist to get to log in. So here's the tip. On their phone, that's not easy. We can do it on our computer. That makes sense. But on our phone, we're used to just dealing with apps. So here's how you do it for a client. You tell them, hey, you can save Wanderlist as a favorite to your home screen. It's really simple. And so what you're seeing on the screen right now is the how-to for Apple device. I have an iPhone, so I could take screenshots. Once the client is logged in, they open a, you know, Safari or whatever on their phone, they're logged into Wanderlist. They just click at the bottom, the share icon for step 1. Step 2, add to home screen. Step 3, add. Boom. The Apple creates an icon and populates it on their home screen. So every time now they want to go into Wanderlist, it feels like a native app. They just click this icon and bam, they're in Wanderlist. So it's a great trick to make this feel simple for clients. The cool thing about this, because I just learned this myself like 3 months ago, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to use this not just for Wanderlist. I'm going to use this for all of these web-based things that I'm doing as an easy way to get. I do some shopping on, you know, different things that don't have apps yet. I can create a little app. So it's kind of a cool thing to share with your clients because they could use it for other things. Now, I don't have an Android, so I couldn't take screenshots, but I will tell you the steps are exactly the same. The only thing that difference is the first step, which you start by clicking up here. I think on the Android phone, it's the hamburger menu is in the top right. You just click that and it's still the same thing. It says share icon. And then all the other steps are exactly the same. So a nice little tip that you can share with your clients. I wanted to touch on some things that are coming around the corner because for you guys, since I'm doing this today, we're really close to these coming. So I wanted to give you a sneak peek of what these things look like. So once that one sign-in technology is live, there will also be integration of Wanderlist with Virtuoso.com. Because again, remember, right now you have to sign into Wanderlist by going, you know, www.virtuosowanderlist/Wanderlist. Instead, and once the full integration happens, you and or one of your clients log into virtuoso.com and Wanderlist is right there. I just click it. I don't have to sign into Wanderlist separately. I don't have to go to a separate browser to sign into Wanderlist or open a new tab. It's right there, which is so great and so easy. And what that also means is that all of the content that exists on virtuoso.com, all the, you know, articles, the beautiful content that's out there, will have a little Wanderlist heart on it now going forward, that if you're reading it, a client's reading it, they can click the heart and add that article to a Wanderlist that they have, or create a new Wanderlist based on an idea they just read about. So really cool and really interactive that I think everyone's going to love and benefit from. And then we do have a new release coming out. Hopefully July, mid-July is what we're shooting for. And I wanted to give you just a sneak peek of what's in that release and what that's going to look like. So because we're fully integrating with virtuoso.com soon, we changed the look and feel of the design of Wanderlist to match it, you know, to look like a cousin, to look like it belongs on virtuoso.com. So here's what it'll look like. You to a list. So you can see here, I can add as many destinations as I want, and I can change my mind later and start deleting some of them. If I change my mind on that Europe tour, maybe I decide I don't want to go to Belgium, I can click that off. Every time I add a destination, a new picture is going to be added for that destination to the header, which is really fun. And then you can see below that is the ability to add a date. It's not a specific date, it's a month and a year, but that's going to be so useful for both you and the client, because, you know, clients, when they start getting lists that are, you know, 10, 15 lists in their Wanderlist, adding a date, even if it's a general date, is going to help them prioritize in their own mind, you know, when these might happen. Let's start prioritizing this. And then, of course, for you, you're going to understand what those priorities are as well. I couldn't get everything on one screen, so I highlighted below the date. Again, being able to add an advisor, since they're coming into v.com, let's just say it's a true prospect, or maybe it is into virtuoso.com. If they're coming in through your website, your personalized website, and they don't have a Wanderlist, they create a Wanderlist. Wanderlist is going to recommend that they add you, because it knows came in through your account. It's going to have your little picture here that says, you know, add, you know, Laura Fixsen or Susie Chow or whoever to your Wanderlist account so they can share ideas, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to make it really easy for them to connect with you. Below, a note section, I like to think of it like Facebook Messenger, where we can send little chat, we can chat with each other, and it's per list. So this note section is for those members that are on this list. So we're the only ones that can chat with each other. We can ask questions about different ideas that are out there. We can learn more things about each other. If I'm new to them, I can introduce myself to them, et cetera, et cetera. So this chat box, I think, is going to be a huge addition. It's just around the corner. Now, I always like to leave a session with some motivation and a bit of a challenge, because I know what it's like, right? You've sat in thousands of webinars probably at this point. Great idea, I love this. We get all excited, and then we get off the call and this business is pulling at me, and I never get around to actually implementing this great idea that I saw that could help build my business. So I'm going to give you a little breakdown of how Wanderlist might be able to help you meet some of your sales goals. So let's just say, I've talked to a lot of advisors, and this $1 million in annual sales seems to be this goal that a lot of people have in their mind. For some, it might be, you know, a stretch goal, which I love, stretch goals. But based on our data, if you have 50 clients in Wanderlist, we know that they're going to average 2 trips and spend an average of about $10,000. So you will have, with those 50 clients, do the math, over $1 million in future aspirational travel. So let's get a little more granular. So you would set a personal goal of getting 1 to 2 clients a week into Wanderlist. And by the end of the year, you'll be thanking yourself. So that will put you on that track of having 1 million in future sales, which is huge. All right, well, let's get a little more, how do I do that? Like, what's my actual to-dos? This is great, I love that. But what do I need to do to get 1 to 2 clients a week in my list? Advisors know that if they're inviting, and I'm being conservative because anecdotally, we know just from talking to advisors, when you create a list for a client, it's custom to them and it's specific to them. 9 times out of 10, they're going to engage with that list. Anecdotally, that's what we're hearing. I will tell you, if you're using your advisor invite link on your website, and maybe in social media, or maybe you're emailing people and client and inviting them to Wanderlist, the acceptance rate on that is about 12%, which is pretty high considering in the travel industry at large to get somebody to click on a link is about 2.25%. So it's a really great way to market. If the client is inviting someone to a list, whether you created the list for them or they've created the list, that conversion rate is 40%. 40% is huge. So there are a lot of ways you could get 1 to 2 clients in Wanderlist. But if you were to invite 3 to 5 clients each week to a list, you would more than blow that 50 clients in a year out of the water. Even if you did 1 to 2 clients a week, making a list and inviting them to them, I think that would help you to get close, just based on statistics that we're learning. And then, you know, don't forget, a really key point is to encourage them to make lists, not just for this trip, but for the next 3, 5 trips, because that's really going to help build that pipeline for you. It's great now, phones are ringing off the hook, but we don't ever want to be caught where one day the faucet turns off and we don't have a pipeline built. So encouraging them to make those future lists for those future trips are going to help you maintain that steady pipeline and that steady flow of future bookings. So make sure you're sharing that personal link everywhere, website, social media, email, all of that. And then get ready. We have a marketing toolkit that's going to hit. It says May. Now it's really going to hit in June. End of June is what I've been hearing. I've seen it. It's great. It's got a new branded logo in it. It's got brand positioning statements for you. It's got pre-formatted, pre-written social media content that all you have to do is drop your personal invite link in. It's got ads that are already written. They're beautiful. You have choice of whatever photos you want to use in some of this stuff. It allows you to private label or brand them however you want. So it's really going to be the easy button for you to do social digital campaigns with Wanderlist. So really cool stuff coming. I've already got a sneak peek and I love it. It's beautiful. There'll also be I don't think in the first release they're going to have the how-to video in there, but we have a how-to video out on the information pages for Wanderlist. It's the one I recorded. It's a consumer demo, 3 minutes long. That just kind of it's the how do I do this? How do I create an account? How do I create a list? How do I invite people? How do I add ideas? So that exists for you if you need it, but just know there's going to be a beautiful professional one coming down the way as well. So with that, I did want to let you know, I know we talked about it in the 101, some of the resources for you are listed here, the Wanderlist information pages that are out on virtuoso.com. There's also more training out in the Travel Academy for Wanderlist. We'll continually be adding little best tips and training nuggets out there. And then if you ever have technical issues, you can always reach out to help@virtuoso.com. If you have, let's just say, things that you're wondering about, hey, does it do this? I have this idea like Roseanne of creating this lookbook and I'm thinking about it a little more creatively and you want to talk through some of that, or you have a great story to share and want to have some potential opportunity for PR, you can always email us at wanderlist@virtuoso.com. And one of our team members, whether me or somebody else, will get back to you and connect with you. So where can we find the recording? Great question. I will be sending the recording once it's available. That I'm assuming, Allie, I'll send it to you and you will distribute that out, or do you want to address where they could find that, Allie?
Yes, once you send it to me, I'll be adding it to our private YouTube page that we have, and I will send that link out to everybody. So we have the 101 on there. So I'll actually probably include that in the communication, so you have both right there at the top of your email.
Perfect. And I will tell you too that once the marketing toolkit for Wanderlist releases end of June, we are scheduling, Betsy and I are scheduling to do a network call for everyone, a little training on that, which I believe is set for July 20th. But it'll be coming. It'll be that link will be in the executive update. It'll be in a couple of communications that are going out, and then. We have a Wanderlist newsletter. We're doing a pilot for a Wanderlist newsletter. I can't remember when that releases, but anyway, that'll be quarterly too. That will have best practices and some little nuggets in there and resources for you. So because Wanderlist is such a huge initiative with Virtuoso going forward, we're going to do as best as we can to make sure we're getting communications out to everybody about what's going on, what's available, what's the latest and greatest. So just keep your eyes on that as well.
That sounds great. Well, thank you, Laura. This was very informative. I just want to make sure, does anybody have any questions before we end our session?
I have a question.
Yeah, go, Terry.
I'm just curious, does any other consortium or large agency have anything like this?
No, Wanderlist is exclusive to Virtuoso and there is nothing else like it. And so this is a huge step, foot forward for you guys, right? It's a differentiator from your competition. And, sometimes you hear, well, there's Pinterest and there's even, oh man, I'm having a brain fart because I never go out there. Airbnb has experiences where you can make lists and things like that. Well, isn't that a competitor? Maybe, but the truth is with Wanderlist, it's not just you're confined to the information we have available. Like, so Airbnb, you can only add their experiences. That's it. Like, you're limited. Where Wanderlist, really, we've opened the door to add anything you want. So we have a collection, surely. We have the Wanderlist collection, but that add your own button, you can add anything you want. So we're not just a singular focus, so when the travelers are thinking about this, I can add a recipe from great-great-grandma from Italy, on my Wanderlist. I can add, an experience. I can add a hotel. I can add, I want to take French lessons, and here's a link. So it's just this all-encompassing way to manage and organize all ideas and around a trip. So really, there is nothing like it out there right now.
That's pretty
It's a huge edge for you. Yeah, really cool, really cool. And since it's such a huge focus for Virtuoso, we plan to continue to enhance this. I mean, it will stay free, and we're going to continue to enhance it and add cool features, like the new feature set's coming out soon. But we have a list of like really great things that we want to add here to make it even more friendly, user-friendly, the ability to sort and filter and organize. And hey, I don't want to just always have to put in order these things. I want to be able to move these things around or delete lists. So all of those things are coming, and feel free to email wanderlist@virtuoso.com with your ideas. That's where we get them from. I hear these things from advisors who've been using it and say, well, it'd be great if, right? Those things get added to our development list. And the more we hear about a certain thing, the higher it goes on the priority list. So please use that email to send me ideas.
And I have one last question. I noticed where you copy the link, your link, over on the right, there was a red box that said copy.
Yes. So what that is, I'll share so everyone can see that.
Will that copy all the verbiage in that little box?
Yes, that's exactly what. So everyone understands what Terry's talking about. I'm going to go into my account profile here, hit manage profile where my advisor link is. So she's talking about this copy button on the far right here. If I hit that, it's copying all of this content. So it's the easy button for I'm going to send an email to invite somebody. It puts all this verbiage in there, and then you can tweak it if you want, but it's just an easy way to put all of that. Why would you want to, dream with me, blah, blah, blah. So that's what that is. If you just want the link, you actually need to just highlight that link and then copy that. So good question. All right. Well, with that, if there's no other questions, and feel free again to send questions to wanderlist@virtuoso.com or Allie. And then I'll send that link to you, Allie. And I'll also send a little follow-up document that has kind of these tips written out for you, because some people aren't visual. They're more, I need to read it. So I'll send that your way as well to share if you feel like that makes sense. You're muted, Allie.
I turned my camera on, but I muted myself. Thank you so much, Laura. This was very informative, and so it's great. It's great to see the new enhancements too, from the beginning to all the additions that you've done.
Thank you. My pleasure, and thanks for having me the rest of the day, and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks everybody for joining. Bye.
Thank you.